Thanks for joining me. Over the last few years, a lot has changed in dentistry, and most of it deals with the way practices are organized and the way that insurance is handled. And there have been several, it's just really complex, and there have been several times when I have sat down and tried to figure out how can I properly communicate this so that my patients understand why we do things in certain ways and why things are changing. And the information that I type out gets to be 6, 7, 8, 9 pages. I know nobody wants to read this. So I've done this little video. I hope it helps. It's not going to answer all the questions, but I'm going to kind of cover the high spots as fast as I can. Just to kind of lay the groundwork, a typical dental office runs on about a 75% overhead. So for every $100, there's usually about $25 of that is left. That's the profit for the company, the dentist, the group of dentists, whatever. And that's about what ours has been here. We probably run a little more lean than most, but typically that's about right. So starting in about 2015, it actually started a few years before this, but for us, this whole concept and thing about being in network, just so everybody understands, being in network, and they used to call it preferred provider, and I think they finally had to change that wording because it gave the impression that if you were a preferred provider, you somehow had been deemed better than other dentists, and that is not the case. When you're in network, what that means is that the dentist has agreed that instead of accepting $100 for something, which is his normal fee, he's willing to accept a lesser rate. And some companies negotiate that rate. Some companies don't negotiate the rate. They just tell you what they'll pay you. You can choose whether to be in network or out of network, but if you choose to go in network, you are agreeing to accept a lowered rate. This became very common in more populated areas, probably 20 or 25 years ago, but has now pretty much slowly crept into the entire dental community. So, just as a point of reference, I ran some of my numbers over the years. Since I started this practice here in Advance, it was 2006. Basically, my normal adjustments, if I looked at my adjustments at the end of the year, is about 3 or 4%. And pretty much what that was where I see my mother and I don't charge her anything. Or if something that we've done doesn't work the way that we want it to, we adjust it off. That's what that was. Well, in 2015, I signed up for my first in-network plan, and I only ever signed up for a few of them. But what happens is when you sign up with one, that company can then go and sell that contract with you to a lot of other insurance companies. So you think you've only signed up for one, but really, all of a sudden, you're in network with 8 or 10. I signed up with Delta Dental. That's one of the big ones. I signed up with Emeritus because they cover the Davie County school system. Delta Dental does Ashley Furniture, a big employer here in this area. And anyway, the next thing I knew, I was about, 70% in network, which means that my adjustments went crazy. In the first year, 2015, when I had just a couple that I had done, my adjustments became 6% of my overall production. Fast forward to 2022 and 2023. 27%. In 2022, I wrote off, and now this is money that would have just been my pay, in prior years. In 2022, I wrote off $322,000. That's losing money. That's losing money, and it was in 2022 and 2023 that I decided I was going to have to put a stop to this. To add insult to injury, not only are you writing off hundreds of thousands of dollars, but these insurance companies become more and more and more difficult to deal with. denying claims, having to appeal everything, literally clawing and digging and scratching for every possible, it's almost like we've become beggars. So, as of the end of November of 2024, I am no longer in network with any insurance company at all. And some of these companies have sent my patients letters and some haven't. But just so everybody knows, most of these companies pay, if I'm not in network, like if you come in here and get your teeth cleaned, most of them pay 100% or just short of it. Some of them have punitive measures if you don't see an in-network provider, but most don't. This is an agreement between the insurance company, let's say MetLife, Cigna, Aetna, Delta Dental. It's an agreement between that company and the employer. The employer says, I want a plan that's about this good. What can you give me? And depending on how good the employer wants to be to their employees, that is how much they spend, and that, of course, is directly proportional to what the benefit is. But most decent employers, they do not force you to go to an in-network dentist, and they pay about 100% for routine services. What I have done, I know this is hard for some people to believe. But what I've done is I've saved up about 2 weeks worth of insurance checks here, and I'm just going to kind of quickly go through them. I've got them mostly in alphabetical order, and I just want you all to see Cigna is a big one. Cigna does a great job of scaring you all into thinking that you have to go to an in-network dentist. They don't completely say it that way, but they all but say it. So when I went out of network with Cigna in November, they were sending letters to everybody saying, oh, you got to go find somebody else. That is not true. And you'll see the stack of checks that I've got just from Cigna. But let's start with Aetna. Here's one. It paid 100% of a routine cleaning. Here's another one, almost 100%. Here's another one. They paid all but $3 of a cleaning, all but $2 of a cleaning. Here is one that paid, this one did not pay quite as well, and the patient had to pay about $80. Here is one, and that, let's see, that's a cleaning. They paid almost all of it. This was just for an exam and an x-ray. Somebody came in with a specific issue, and they paid all of it but $23. And there's a routine cleaning for 100%. Emeritus. I signed up with Emeritus specifically because they covered the Davie County school system here. They're one of the ones that sold me out to a bunch of other people. But here's somebody that came in and got exam and x-rays. They paid 100%. The school system's Emeritus really is pretty good. Here's another one, 100%. Here's somebody that came in and had a couple of fillings, and they paid 70%. Here's somebody that we did a bridge on, and they paid 80% of part of it and 50% of another part of it. And that's pretty typical as far as basic and major services. Those of you that might have Anthem, the in-network pay that they would give me is terrible, but out-of-network, I get paid just about 100% of my fee. Here's somebody that came in. We submitted a charge of $315. They paid $315. That was for a comp exam and some x-rays and a cleaning. Here's somebody that had a filling done, and they paid all but $78 of a charge, and 50 of that was a deductible. So Blue Cross Blue Shield. We have a lot of Reynolds patients that have Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they pay pretty good. Here's somebody that the charge was $274. They paid $261. So it was all but $13. That was for a routine cleaning. Here's another one. They paid all but $12.20 for a routine cleaning. Here's a Dental Blue that 100%. There are a couple plans out there with Blue Cross where they just pay $100. It's like they pay $100 for any service. So I don't really want to pay attention to that much. Here's somebody that had their teeth cleaned and they paid all but $60. So again, these discrepancies have to do with what the employer has negotiated with the insurance company. But for the most part, here's this is more Blue Cross with Reynolds. They paid all but $17, all but $17, all but $12, all but $12. And now we go to Cigna. A lot of y'all have Cigna. I know Novant is a big one. So I've got in this stack right here, Right Mini. There's a bunch of Cigna checks. So let's just look at them. Here's somebody that got their teeth cleaned and x-rays. It was $274 and they paid $274. Here's somebody that had a new patient exam, full mouth series of x-rays and got their teeth cleaned. They paid 100% of it. This is a couple of people that got their teeth cleaned. This one paid all but $2 and that one paid all but $2. So Cigna, for the most part, and they're the ones that are telling you, oh, you need to go find an in-network. That's because they don't want to pay like they do when you come here. Now, the difference in a lot of these offices that take all these plans, and there are exceptions to all these rules, but what happens is, if you're going to take a 40%, 45% cut on your fee, and that's what a lot of these were, you've got to about see twice as many patients. So the dentist doesn't get to spend any time with you. A lot of times they're running different dentists in and out. You never see the same dentist, never see the same hygienist. There's never a real relationship that's developed. And it's very much a just, run them in, run them out. That's the only way that you can make any money. You've got to see about twice as many people. I'm not going to work that way. I used to work that way when I was first out of dental school, and I was young and energetic and all that, and I quickly realized when you try to rush dentistry, it's not a good thing. So here's another cleaning with Cigna, and this is somebody that works at Kaplan. They paid all but $9 for a cleaning. So here's 100% for a cleaning. Here is somebody, now this is somebody that works at Bravo Health. They paid 100% for a crown. Every dollar they paid. Again, this has everything to do with what the employer has negotiated with the insurance company. Here's somebody that had a cleaning and an exam and a full mouth series of x-rays. They paid all of it, but $106. That one they paid 100%. That's somebody at Piedmont Healthcare. Cigna has a lot of healthcare companies. Here's somebody else at Kaplan, got their teeth cleaned. It was all but $9. This person is at Novant. This was a cleaning for $274, exam and x-rays. They paid all of it but $2. So, that's 100%. Most of these with Cigna that I'm clicking through here was one, a cleaning with a comp exam and FMX, $359. They paid every dollar. Bravo Health out of Pennsylvania. I'm not sure what company that is, but it says Bravo Health. Here's somebody that they paid all but $16. So especially those of you with Cigna, because this is the latest thing, is Cigna patients and these letters that they've sent out to people. I mean, literally every claim is either 100% or almost 100%. All right, so Delta Dental. Those of you that have Delta Dental, and if you want to Google up just how rotten this group is, Google up Delta Dental being sued by the American Dental Association. It's been a long lawsuit going on. They're being charged with racketeering and price fixing and monopoly laws and all kinds of stuff. Delta is the worst one to deal with as far as this in-network, because they won't negotiate with you at all. They had not done a price increase in about 3 or 4 years until September of 2023, and they raised their rates about 1%. It's the first time they've done it in 3 or 4 years. You all know what has happened to the inflation and economy over the last 3 or 4 years. It's happening in dentistry just like it is everywhere else. And when you're in network and you see the prices, what you're getting paid, $19.95 fees, but yet you're paying a hygienist $20.25 fees. I mean, it's unbelievable. Just a hygienist, the hourly rate for a hygienist has probably gone up on average $20 per hour in the last 2 or 3 years. And you're lucky to even find one. I mean, really lucky. There's an unbelievable shortage. And what we're having to pay them has just gone wild. But yet these insurance companies are wanting to pay less and less and less. Delta Dental usually sends the patient the check. So if we've had a long history with you and you've been a good patient and there's never been an issue with money, we file it and we wait till the insurance pays you, and then we know that you're going to come in here and pay us. It's not a big deal. If you're a new patient and we don't have any point of reference, we might ask you to pay that up front just because we don't have a relationship with you yet. But some Deltas do pay us. And for example, here's one. The cleaning was $274 with x-rays. They paid all of it but $7. In fact, there's 3 patients on here. 2 of them, they paid all but $7, and 1 of them, they paid all but $2. Here is a Delta check, and there's 3 patients on here. They paid 100% for a new patient exam with cleaning. And on a root canal, they paid 90%. That's actually above average. And here's another cleaning. They paid 100%. So Delta out of network generally pays pretty good. There's a little more variation with Delta plans, but we do have some ways of figuring out. And if you ever have a question, just know we'll be as transparent as we can. The last thing that I want at this point in my career is for people to be arguing up at the checkout counter. I'd rather pay you than to have some kind of a disagreement up at the front desk. Guardian is one. Most of their claims, here's $248 charge, they paid every dollar. Here was a charge of $169, and they paid $169. This is Guardian. This is with Senior Services. They paid 100% of the cleaning. Here's somebody charged with $192. They paid $192. So Guardian also is paying about 100%. Here's somebody that the charge was $134. They only paid $68.40. They paid 90% of the fee after they only paid a certain amount of my fee. That's the usual and customary argument. Humana. Humana is a big insurance company. Most of the people that have Humana that come here are on a Medicare Advantage plan. They pay great. They don't have good record keeping. Sometimes they think that they haven't paid things that they have paid, and vice versa. They like to deny big claims. And for those of you that wonder how lackadaisical we're going to be about following up on claims, just know that in this office, I do it all. And when they try to deny stuff, I bite in even harder, and I don't let up. And I very rarely lose. So if you've ever been in here and heard me on the phone with these insurance companies, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know of another provider that will go to bat for you like we do here, like I do here in this office. But most of Humana, especially the Medicare Advantage plan, they pay almost 100%. And on some things, they do pay 100%. I think on a crown, you end up having to pay about $100. On a cleaning, depending on if you have x-rays or not. If you don't have x-rays, you're going to owe $26. If you do have x-rays, you're going to owe $31. And they used to pay 100% of it. We didn't change our fee, but they reduced what they would pay. So Humana, in general, is a pretty good company, and they're normally easy to work with, but you just have to know that when you file something for a crown or a bridge or something, they're probably going to deny it, and you're probably going to have to appeal it, and but you'll eventually get paid. MedCost, which is Baptist Hospital, Wake Med, they pay almost 100%. Here's somebody that came in and got their teeth cleaned. They owed $3.43. Another one, $3.43. I'm not sure why they leave that little amount on there. MetLife pays about 100%. Somebody had their teeth cleaned, they paid 100%. Here's one. This person, I believe, works in a law office, and they actually owed $78, so they didn't pay quite as good. Here's one that the patient ended up owing $54. Here is this person, I believe, is a nurse, but they paid 100%. Here's two people, they both paid 100%. And then, you know, there's some sort of outlier companies like Mutual of Omaha. This was one of the ones that we ended up in network with, even though we didn't sign up with. Here's 100% of a cleaning. This is somebody in the furniture industry. It's 100% of a cleaning. Sun Life. This is 3 different claims. 100%, 100%, 100%. They paid 100% on all 3 of these claims. And this is Davie County Schools, Davidson-Davie Community College, and Yadkin County Schools. Sun Life does a lot of school systems. In fact, I think Davie is now with them. Here's 100%. There's 100%. Team Care, which is, they're somehow related in with Humana, but we have a few patients there. I know UPS covers them. They pay pretty well. Those of you that might have Liberty, which is a Blue Cross Blue Shield product when things are going good. If things aren't going good, they will deny any relationship at all to Blue Cross Blue Shield. They do not pay very well. It's better than nothing. Those of you that are on a Medicare Advantage plan and have dental benefits now, like United Healthcare, Humana, Liberty, just know a few years ago, there was no dental benefit. So what you're getting now is better than what it used to be. But Liberty is, you know, they pay about half is what you get. Principal is one of our smaller companies that we deal with, but here's somebody that paid 100%. They're cleaning. Physicians Mutual. This one, I'm trying to see who the employer is, but they didn't pay but about half on that claim. Here's an emeritus that I don't see the EOB to, so I don't know what that was for. United Healthcare. They're sort of all over the map. Typically, they're not the greatest, but again, if it's one of the Medicare Advantage plans, just remember, a few years ago, you weren't getting anything. They are probably the quickest company to deny a claim, to lose a claim, to get confused. These insurance companies love to confuse things, and they like for things to be unorganized, because that way things just sort of get swept under the rug, and the next thing you know, it's been a year and they don't pay a claim after a year. Here's some more United Healthcare. On this cleaning, they paid all but $1. On this one, they paid all but $16. Here's one, looks like they paid all but $16. And here is one that on a $274 charge, they only paid $133. So I'm not sure who the employer is there. Here's one that they paid all but $1. Here's one that they paid all but $16. That is a pre-treatment estimate. And here is one that on a $251 charge, they took out a deductible of $25 and only paid $113. So that's not a real good one with United Healthcare. And this one, they only paid $59 on a $121 cleaning. So that gives you an idea. I would say of all those that I just called out, 90% of them paid either 100% or almost 100%. And the others are just ones where the employer has not negotiated a great dental insurance package. For those of you that have Delta Dental, just so you know, a lot of large employers, when they go to get their health insurance package, let's say they go with MetLife for their health insurance. That might not be a great example, but anyway, whatever health insurance company they go with, that health insurance company says to your HR people, hey, if you'll get our medical insurance, we'll give you Delta Dental for free. And then what that company does is they tell their employees, hey, for $25 a month, you've got dental insurance. So they're collecting $25 a month from the employer, sometimes more depending on if you have a bunch of kids or something, and they're not paying anything for that. So you can about imagine how good the benefit is. Go on Delta Dental's website. You can buy dental insurance for less than what you are currently paying for Netflix every month. Now, just imagine, $20, $25 a month. So $300 a year. How good do you think that insurance can be? There's going to be all kinds of small print in there. And for those of you that are thinking about going out and getting your own private insurance policy, just know those are really the worst because you don't have the power of a big group behind you. You don't have a company. You don't have an HR person. You're just out there fighting whoever all by yourself, and I tell you that is truly worthless. A lot of the patients that come here pretty much have done the work that needs to be done. They don't have a lot of things that are going to happen. Maybe every now and then something will come up. If you want to look into something that, and I'm not trying to sell anything here, but we have a program, $35 a month, gets you 2 cleanings a year. It gets you every exam, whether it's associated with the cleaning or not. It gets you every radiograph that you might need, whether it's associated with a cleaning or not. And it also gives you 20% off of anything else that you have done. No maximum. So if you're somebody that needs a lot of dentistry done, I almost hate to say this because this costs me a lot of money. If you need $10,000 worth of dentistry done, you can get all your cleanings for free, all your exams for free. And if I do $10,000 worth of work on you, I'm going to write off $2,000 of it. Most insurance companies have a maximum of about $1,000 or maybe $1,500. There's a few that get up to $2,000 to $3,000. But most of them are in the $1,000 to $1,500 range. So you can get on our HSA plan. If all you do is get your teeth cleaned twice a year and x-rays once a year, you're going to save about 20% off of what our normal fee is. But if you have any other dentistry done, you're going to get 20% off of it, and there's no maximum to it. All these insurance plans have maximums, and once they reach that maximum, and most of them are pretty low, once they reach that maximum, they're not paying anymore. They don't care what happens to you. I hope you all know, and I hope that over the years, those of you that have been coming here for a long time know that we truly care about your teeth. We are a business. I'm not embarrassed to say I'm a business, and I'm a businessman. And if I'm not a businessman, then I'm being really dumb. But at this point, I pretty much got those bases covered, and we enjoy the relationship with you all. That's why we're not going to see twice as many patients unless, well, now that my daughter's coming into practice here, we'll see more patients, but that's because we'll have more manpower. But we want you all to have great oral health if you want that. And if you don't want it, as long as you're not asking us to do something that's unethical or immoral, then that's fine. I tell people I like to pull teeth every bit as much as I like to restore them. That's not what I want for you, is a bunch of empty holes in your mouth. But as far as the clinical work goes, one thing I do know is extractions don't fail. There's never a failure with an extraction. So we enjoy doing that. We like seeing people for emergencies. We just like people. And growing up here, it has been such a pleasure to see people that I've known my whole life, my old teachers, old friends, people come in here all the time that I, haven't thought about in years and years. And it's a real joy to practice here and to be a dentist. It has been a great profession. I fear it's going the wrong way, and this insurance is one of the reasons why. But just know we're hanging on to knowing our patients, and I will be happy if you have a question about your insurance and you're not sure which one is mine. Where does my insurance fall relative to this stack? I am more than happy to look into it for you and to give you an idea. We have a pretty good idea, although these insurance companies are very, 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 very tricky these days. But if I tell you that I think your insurance company is going to pay all of your cleaning or almost all of it, and then they don't, I am positioned to just write that off for you. And at that point, you can then decide, hey, do I want to stick with Tom, or do I want to go to one of these places that accepts all these plans? And, again, there are exceptions to every rule, but generally speaking, the offices that are accepting all these plans are running a lot of different dentists in. Most of them don't have a lot of experience. They're pretty much straight out of school. They've got a lot of student debt. That's another thing that's ruining dentistry is the debt that these students are coming out with, and that's a real problem. But I will evaluate your insurance personally for you, and if I tell you that I think that they're going to pay like most of these have paid, and they don't, then I'll just eat it. At this point, I can stand to do that. If anybody has any specific questions about their insurance, please let me know. If anybody has left here because you think that you can't come here anymore because I am not in network, that is not true. That absolutely is not true. You can come here, and most plans are still going to pay here even better than what they used to. In closing, I want to give you, since I have been out of network, I can go back and I can look at, and I was nervous doing this. I'm going to tell you, I'm a pretty confident person in general, but I was nervous when I started, especially when we dropped Delta Dental and Aetna and some of those bigger ones. It really made me nervous. But not only has the productivity of this office stayed almost exactly the same, but our collections have just gone way up because I'm not writing off, in 2022 or 2023, $322,000. I'm not writing that off anymore. So our business, our practice is much more healthy from a financial standpoint, and it was just downright anemic those couple of years that it was up that high. But when I look at what we're collecting, our system tells me how much comes from cash and checks, how much comes from credit cards, how much comes from insurance. The difference in what we were collecting and what we are collecting now, my patients are paying literally within $1,000 of the same amount. But that upper part where I'm not writing off and I'm getting paid, that's all being paid from the insurance company. Patients are paying the same thing within $1,000 of the same time period last year. It's the insurance companies that are having to pay more. And that's why they're sending y'all these letters saying, you need to go see somebody that's in network. It's because it's costing them more and they don't want to pay it. Please understand, I hope that you all know, these insurance companies do not want to pay a single claim on you. They do not care about you. They don't care what your smile looks like. They don't care if you're in pain. They care about bonuses and big corporate spending. And I'm all for everybody making plenty of money, but not when it comes to screwing around with my patients in particular. So if anybody has any specific questions about this, I meant for this to be like 5 or 10 minutes, and it's now 35 minutes. I appreciate your time. It's better than reading an 8 or 10 page letter. If you have any specific questions that I can answer, just call the office. You can email us. I assure you that I will get back to you. Our goal is for you to have all the information as good as we can give it to you so that you make the decisions that are best for you and your family, whether it's the financial component or the clinical component or whatever. We just want to equip you to make the best decisions for you. And we understand a lot of this is expensive. Sometimes I wonder if even I would do it. But our goal is to have you mentally equipped to understand the pros and cons of every part of this so that you do what's best for you. I appreciate your time, and thanks again for being my patient.